The black market of weapons. Ukraine cannot defeat Russia on its own and needs lethal military assistance from the West. The supply of weapons from dozens of countries is a complex process, and delays often occur, as repeatedly mentioned by Ukrainian officials, including Zelensky and Kuleba themselves. For the aggressor, it is extremely important to delay or disrupt these supplies, using various informational influences aimed at supplier countries, primarily at North America and Europe, and the Global South countries, Latin America, Africa and Asia. The goal of Kremlin agents is to discredit Ukraine by portraying it as a country that cannot control the flow of weapons and encourages smuggling of javelins, M16 and possibly even Abrams tanks and F-16 fighters. Their goal is to form a persistent belief that the supplied weapons will inevitably return as contraband and end up in the hands of criminals. This has led partner countries to design mechanisms for tracking and regulating the provision of arms to Ukraine, which the Russians have actively used in their information campaigns. Enemy information resources have simultaneously been silent about the primary reasons for such steps: to maintain the Western public's trust in supporting Ukraine as a country that upholds democratic values and meets the security expectations of the European Union and the USA. The harmful narrative implementation involved several stages. Initially, the Russians identified vulnerabilities in all countries supplying heavy weapons to Ukraine. The preparation stage included creating a main fake story by Russia Today, a Russian international broadcasting and propaganda news outlet, and a statement by former Minister of Defense Shoigu, which gave momentum to active discussions in the Western information space. This catalyzed the development of the campaign, turning the narrative that Ukraine is a black market of weapons into constant discussion. Analyzing the timeline of events shows that the initial stages significantly influenced forming international public opinion. After the Russia Today fake news campaign began, it took the Russians a month and a half to promote this narrative and destabilize trust in Ukraine. Then a statement by Minister of Shoigu followed, and a week later this topic became actively discussed, with articles appearing in major Western publications. For instance, on July 12, 2022, Financial Times published an article titled "NATO and EU sound alarm over risk of weapons smuggling from Ukraine," discussing NATO and EU countries' insistence on strengthening the tracking process of supplied weapons to Ukraine due to fears of those weapons falling into the hands of criminals. The attempt to accuse Ukraine of selling javelin systems to Mexican cartels appeared strange, as the presenter mistakenly called the AT-4 anti-tank grenade launcher a javelin. AT-4 has been in mass production since 1980s and in service in Latin American armies, making it plausible that it was purchased on the black market really, but certainly not from Ukraine. This news caused an information vacuum in Mexico, which was addressed by Russian embassy. The cherry on top was a video where Hamas militants boasted about American-made weapons and thanked Ukrainians for them. This video appeared in the Russian information space many times, with claims that the weapons were sold to Hamas by Ukrainians through the darknet. Additionally, the Russians accused Ukraine, Albania and Bulgaria of creating an underground market for weapons supposedly coming from Ukraine to buyers worldwide. Just imagine this. The Russian media outlet Russia Today also disseminated an interview with a volunteer from Ukraine's International Legion, a former one, John McIntyre, an American communist and a member of the Tankist organization, who discredited the Ukrainian forces. Although we remember the delay in weapons supply from the United States, but it is rather the result of inner political struggle inside America rather than influence of Russian propaganda. But who knows for sure? The Center for Countering Disinformation of Ukraine characterized this campaign as moderate in influence and harmfulness, since the main narratives were spread in 2022 and did not affect the supply of Western weapons to Ukraine. The war continues, and without Western arms, Ukraine cannot defend independence or ensure a stable security situation in the European region. The support of allies is vital both for Ukraine and for themselves.
We in the game.